Buff Nation.
Let's go. Happy Friday.
Happy Friday, everyone. Welcome into DNVR Buffs Primetime, presented by Illegal Pete's, everyone's go-to spot for burritos, buddies, and beers. Studio B for Burr.
My guy is in a complaining mood today.
I'm not in a complaining mood. I'm just cold.
At least you got your adrenal glands cooking.
Yeah. Too bad we don't do a show in Studio A that could stand for adrenal glands.
That could, but it wouldn't because it's nice and warm down there.
I guess that's the drawbacks of Studio A. You don't get the proper. Describe what you just told me, please.
I saw this thing that said that the way that mammals mature and progress is by being in stressful situations when their adrenal glands are kicked in. So then Jake was like, I'm going to go to my car and get my hoodie. And I was like, dude, if you do that, then your adrenal glands won't kick in and then you're not going to mature as a human. So he decided to stick it out.
Yep.
Me, I made the fatal mistake of stunting my growth when I got dressed this morning. But I guess there's a chance it could have been too hot. And then that would have been my way of getting it to kick in.
No, we have like a winter advisory kicking in apparently shortly after the show is done.
Damn.
So
that really sucks for you guys.
Why does it suck for us?
Because I'm going to Mexico tomorrow, baby.
Oh, my God.
Let's go. I will say this. I told Jake this yesterday when I was leaving work. I said, I know that... I told Jake, I said, I know that this show is great because I'm not even that excited to miss 5 shows in a row next week. Like, that actually makes me kind of sad.
Yeah, and then I'm just here by myself.
It's good for you.
That's right, you're here.
Honestly, dude, having to do the show by yourself next week and, like, fight for guests, great for your adrenal glands.
Unk's going to be back.
There you go. Maybe he'll, light a fire under your ass. Help you grow up.
We'll have a conversation about adrenal glands and mammals and the evolutionary process just to satisfy those requirements.
I can maybe tap in and tell you about like the Aztec kingdoms and stuff.
Can't wait. We're going to need a detailed report, double spaced with MLA format.
That just kind of gave me like the chills. It's like PTSD from school.
Yeah, glad those days are over. All right. We are talking about guys who need to be talked about more today.
Yes. Honestly, what happens is the transfer portal all happens really fast.
Yep.
And we're talking about a new player every day. And some guys don't get the shine that they deserve because the very next day there's a new commit or there's a rumor that some 5-star is on campus or whatever. And it's like, it's just bang, 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 one thing after another. And then you look back and like, I'll just tease our first player that we're going to talk about. Like someone brings up DJ McKinney and you're like, wait. Oh yeah, he's sick. Mm-hmm. But like somehow in the midst of it all, you don't talk about him enough. And so we like doing these kind of like catch-up shows. It's like, have you heard about how they want to do, maybe they actually did do this, like a centennial class for the Hall of Fame. And it's like,
right.
We need to like go back and get some guys in because they just keep getting pushed further and further down when like Peyton Manning comes up and he's obviously a first ballot Hall of Famer, but then there's someone on the back end who's like automatically not getting in that year. So we're doing we have to do the catch-up show to make sure that we're speaking about everyone the proper amount.
So DJ McKinney. Entered the portal on the 2nd, committed on January 7th. That was beginning of the NFL playoffs. That was like national championship time.
Yep.
The Jordan Seaton saga just came to a conclusion a few weeks before, but he was a very productive player at Oklahoma State last year as a freshman.
And if you watch the tape on him, man, he's nasty. He's super sticky in coverage, super aggressive going towards the football, and another guy who doesn't get the love or doesn't get the recognition of being a young player that he is. You know, everyone wants to talk about how Coach Prime's high school recruiting class was ranked whatever the fuck it was ranked. And
we're in like the hundreds now, by the way, on that.
It just doesn't matter. But like those people are like, well, you just can't sustain a roster by bringing in transfers. And it's like, well, when you bring in DJ McKinney's and Cordale Russell's and Samuel Okunlola's, then you can. Like, all that is doing is taking guys who have already cut their teeth at this level and bringing them into your program. So, it's so easy to forget about a guy like DJ McKinney. But when we talk about corner, obviously we talk about Travis. Obviously, we talk about Cormani. Mm-hmm. You know, a guy like Omarion Cooper is still around. You've got Preston Hodge in the mix, who we think is going to play more in the middle, in the slot, in the nickel. But all of a sudden, it's like, okay, well, you just need to hit on about 3 of these guys, you know?
Yep.
And maybe you say 4 because you'd like to have extra time to rest Travis if he'll allow it. But really, you've got a lot of bullets between Travis, Cormani, Omarion Cooper, DJ McKinney, Preston Hodge. Who else am I missing? Carter Stoutmeyer. Like, You've got a lot of options here to hit, and you don't need to hit on all of them. You just need to hit on some of them. DJ McKinney's a guy who went out and did it in this conference for the second best team in the conference last year, the best remaining team in the conference as a freshman.
Yeah, it's just something that people completely gloss over with this team is when you look at, and we'll get to some of these guys, but you mentioned the corners, but like Cordale Russell, a guy who's still got 4 years of eligibility. Like, we don't really know what he is. So you can probably say that about DJ McKinney too. Like, he had a nice year last year as a redshirt freshman, but he's only played in like 18 college games.
Yeah.
So the depth, I think, is something that hasn't been talked about enough with this team, is how the depth, like the lower level of the roster's been raised. The bar's been raised there.
100%. And that's, when we did I see the golf balls over there on the table.
Yeah.
When we did the golf ball exercise, that's what I was trying to explain. It's like, you started with nothing, you had to fill it up, and then you start filling the gaps. And you start filling in the depth behind them. You're bringing up the floor of the roster while also trying to bring up the ceiling of the roster.
Next guy.
Do you agree with me, by the way, that is the single most under talked about transfer so far in terms of talent versus hype?
I think so. In terms of, he did it last year. Like, he went and did the thing and was a very young player. He was only rated a 3-star transfer. So for whatever reason, he's just kind of flying under the radar in multiple aspects.
Yep.
It sounds like he might have been flying under the radar at Oklahoma State, which is probably why he wanted out.
Yeah, probably. But, so you wouldn't have picked anyone else?
No, well, one of these two, we're going to talk about 2 defensive linemen here, Anquin Barnes and Taurean Carter. I think Taurean Carter is one that we need to talk about a lot more.
Okay. Speak on it.
Taurean Carter, he flipped. So he was someone, he committed early in the process to SMU.
By the way, I think it's Taurean.
Okay. And then he flipped to Colorado on January 11th. But he has done nothing but produce in his time at Arkansas at a massive position in need, probably the biggest one, smack dab in the middle of that defensive line.
Yep.
So he did have an injury that caused him to miss one season. I think it was 21 or 22, but came back and returned right to the form that he was at before injury. He has some decent production for an interior defensive lineman. He gets in the backfield, gets TFLs and sacks, but he's a grad transfer. This is his only season.
Yeah, for sure. By the way, chat, just so you know, you always have to re-clarify the topic. We're talking about transfers from this year that haven't been talked about enough. So, while you might be right about like Jaden Milliner-Jones, someone brought up Bishop Thomas, et cetera. Those are we'll talk about those guys another day. Mm-hmm. But this is just this year's transfers that happened within the last couple months that some guys just got overshadowed and haven't been talked about enough, like a Taurean Carter. What we needed, especially on the defensive line, was size and strength. And it was one area where people were right last year. They said this team looks small. They were wrong in a lot of areas. They were right on the defensive line. Shane Cokes and Leonard Payne in the middle of the defense just didn't have enough, stoutness. I don't know what the word
mass.
is. Yeah, mass. There you go. to hold up against some of these big run-first offenses in the Power 5. And so they really needed to go out and get some size, and they went and got a centerpiece of a defensive line in the Southeast Conference.
6'3", 303.
Yeah.
That'll do.
Big boy. And only getting bigger, I assume.
Yep. Big year for him. He was a freshman in 2020, so 2022 was the year he tore his ACL. But you look at the production in 2021 and 2023 with that torn ACL in between, and it's identical. 3 TFLs, 1 sack in 2021, 3.5 TFLs and 1.5 sacks in 2023. Even increased his tackles by 1. Like, spot on.
Yeah.
So
excited to see what he can do just eating up space. It's a funny job that you need on a football team, which is just like get a guy in there to just go be big and force the offense to account for him on every play.
If you can just hold up a double team and give that guard or whoever it is just, I don't know, half a second that he's not going to the second level, getting onto a linebacker, like that could be the difference between a 8-9 yard gain, a TFL, or a 0 yard gain.
Totally, and it's you'd have to have film to show this, but and we unfortunately can't show film, or YouTube will snipe us from the roof. But there's a lot of times where you see a linebacker make a play, and it's like he's like ducking under, the guard's trying to get their hands on him, he's ducking under that and like diving into the hole to make a play, and it's like, oh man, what a play by the linebacker. What you don't realize is what you were just talking about. The nose took up that guard for just a little extra half second to make sure that he didn't get into the backfield to make that play. And so he wasn't able to get up to the second level and get on that linebacker as fast as he wanted to. Now the linebacker gets a credit for a nice play, but it's an assist to the interior defensive lineman for delaying that a little bit.
In that same vein, it's Anquin Barnes, the next guy. 6'4", 315, of course, out of Alabama, was a 4-star recruit in 2021. Didn't get on the field, though, and we talked about him, I think, a decent amount when he committed because of the Charles Kelly connection, right? And we've seen that. We saw that last offseason. They brought in a handful of Alabama guys. But Charles Kelly kind of left, and I feel like, Anquin Barnes, because he hasn't really done anything on the football field yet, just hasn't been talked about too much.
Absolutely. I think there's a reason for this one, Jake.
Okay.
When Charles Kelly, when Anquin Barnes came in, everyone said, oh, his primary recruiter at Alabama was Charles Kelly. And so everyone tied those two guys together. And I think there was a bubbling suspicion that when Charles Kelly left, Anquin Barnes would follow him. And so everyone kind of cooled their jets on Anquin Barnes. And to be fair, there still is a spring portal, and maybe he wants to do that. Or maybe it never, Charles Kelly was the connection, but the real thing is he wanted to come play for Coach Prime. Or maybe he loves Coach Dancy. We don't know what's going to happen there. But I think there was an underlying feeling that, we're probably going to lose him. Yeah. And so people cooled on him, but very legit prospect.
This is one of the biggest wild cards that they've brought in. This guy could be, we don't know how much of a factor he could be, but he could just turn into a cornerstone for this defense, kind of like we're expecting Taurean Carter to be. He's obviously much younger, but if you have him blow up now, you have, I think, at least another 2 years left of him too.
Totally. And it's another one of the, there's a bunch of different ways to attack these transfers. We've talked about this before, but I'll say it again. You can go get really productive players from lower level schools that deserve a Power 5 shot. We saw a lot of that last year. You can go get high caliber players at high caliber schools that are buried behind the others on the depth chart. That's the Anquin Barnes. And then there's this new one, which we just kind of talked about with DJ McKinney, which is like productive player at a decently big school who just wants a change of scenery. You have to have a mix of everything, because I think you can take too many flyers on Anquin Barnes like players.
Yes.
There's something to the fact that CJ Stroud walks into the NFL and you just know he has it. You don't have to do the whole got to give a guy 3 years thing to know. Some guys just have it. Some guys just don't. Some guys are later bloomers. And so you don't want to count too much on, oh, he was just buried on the depth chart at X school, he deserves his shot, because like in certain cases that guy just didn't have it. But in other cases that guy really did, and you're right, he was just stuck behind an elite player. So you have to get a mix of these things. I honestly think the safest bet in the transfer portal is highly productive player at small school. I think that is
Preston Hodge.
Yes, exactly. Even like Cam, you know what I mean? Everyone says you can't count Travis and Shedeur, so that's fine. But even that, you know what I mean? Like Shedeur is a perfect example of someone. It's not like everyone just said, oh yeah, well of course he could have gone to Alabama. Like we were the ones having to tell people that last year. A lot of people were saying that's not going to translate. But if you look through, time, Gardner Minshew transfers from ECU to Washington State, still incredibly productive. You remember Anthony Gordon?
Yeah.
I
do.
I think he's one of those 5,000-yard passers.
Yep.
So there's a lot of guys who do that. And the thing is, for me, it's like if you just proved you can play, you can probably play.
Yep.
There are, again, it's not always perfect, though. I don't want to use an example because I don't want to throw anyone under the bus, but there are certain guys who go and produce highly at smaller level schools, and for whatever reason, when they get up to the next level, it doesn't quite happen for them. They were dominating physically in a way that they can't do anymore, or whatever it may be. So you have to really diversify. I think Coach Prime's done a great job of it since he's been here, and even as we just go through this list of 7 or 8 guys that we want to talk about today, you see that diversity.
Yep, definitely. That's the beauty of the transfer portal is it's kind of in the eye of the beholder. Like you can, and that's why it's so important to have these like scouting staffs and personnel staffs, especially like Colorado has, who are so deeply rooted in all these areas of the country that they're recruiting, have been at these big time schools, and have also come from smaller schools. I mean, we've got Vanderbilt guys who are making decisions for this team alongside LSU guys. So
totally.
Who do you want to hit next? You can pick here.
How fun. Let's go with Cordale Russell.
Cordale Russell, baby T.O. A guy that we really wanted, I think, when we found out he entered the portal. Was linked to Colorado pretty early. Didn't play last year as a true freshman. Has all his eligibility remaining. 6'4", 210. You don't get the baby T.O. nickname for like no reason.
Yep.
So he's obviously shown something there. Another Texas kid. 3 of the guys we talked about today, by the way, from Texas.
Interesting.
But yeah, I mean, he's another guy kind of like Anquin Barnes, complete wild card. Like we could have a real player here, or this could take some time to come along as he progresses through college.
Yeah, and I actually lean towards we have a real player here. Physical specimen at such a young age. Super physical football player, and just if you go watch his tape, is a guy who has a knack for getting the football, and it's just like you throw it up and he goes and gets it. So they've been searching for this. You remember last year there's like an offer out to every like 6'5" wide receiver in the portal, because I think it goes all the way to Shedeur's really good at throwing the fade. The red zone fade, I should say. He's actually good at throwing any fade ball, but specifically, like he can go put it in that spot. But last year, who was the person they were throwing those to? Xavier Weaver. Xavier Weaver is what, 6'1", 6 foot?
Yeah, I think he's actually a little lengthier than that. 6'2", 6'3".
Really?
I think so.
I'll look it up. But either way, what Shedeur's gift is ball placement. And so he can put that ball right on the top of the helmet of that defender, and if you have a big physical receiver, you can just go pick it right off of it. The problem is you have to have that size advantage. They've been searching and digging for it. Obviously, Omarion Miller is another one who can be that guy for him, but they really want that. I think Cordale Russell might end up being that guy.
This guy's a pure athlete. In high school, he played basketball. He competed in track and field as well. When he was playing football as a senior, played receiver and edge rusher. He's got some impressive numbers here as a track athlete. Was doing the long jump. first team basketball selection as a junior for his high school. So the athleticism is, I mean, you don't even need to watch the tape. You can just hear that and understand this guy's an athlete. But yeah, with Shilo Sanders, it's a super crowded wide receiver room, and Shilo does have his favorites. LeJontay Wester, he recruited him for a reason.
Yep.
So we'll see exactly who breaks. It's going to be a fascinating competition in this room.
Zay listed at 6'1".
Okay. Next wide receiver then. One of the first guys to commit to Colorado, and that's Terrell Timmons Jr. The cousin of Chargers wide receiver Keenan Allen. He played for NC State last year in 9 games. Actually, in 2022, he played in 9 games as a true freshman. Only had 3 receptions and 1 touchdown. Last year, played in all 12 games, but only 11 receptions for 195 yards. I know there's a lot of people in the chat and out on Twitter and stuff who are huge fans of this guy, though.
Yeah, it's interesting. I feel like the early guys, one, get buried and end up on lists like this where we're talking about them as like not getting enough love. But 2, also get like a cult following, where people are just like, oh, I love that guy because he was early. I think like Levante Bentley was one last year. It's like he came in early. Everyone had his back forever. Eric Brantley is going to be one who has that, tied to him forever. But Terrell Timmons, man, it's speed.
Yep.
Sometimes it feels like they're building a Madden team on offense because it's just like speed. And I love it. Speed kills, and when you play a team with speed, heck, we even saw it in the NFL this year. Broncos, perfect example. They go play the Dolphins. The Dolphins have unlimited speed. They put 70 on our heads. They go play the Lions. Lions with Jahmyr Gibbs and Jameson Williams. And they're running, I think, would they score 40?
It was over early, yeah.
Yeah, I think it was like 40-something points. So when you play a team that can just outrun you, you feel it really fast. And I think it's one of the things that Coach Prime wants to have and desires for this team is just like certain times where they go out there and you can run mesh. And if you're in man coverage, like you have no chance of staying with it. And not only do they get open on the drag, they catch it and make a move, and no one can keep up with them.
It was kind of a weird situation for NC State last year. They lost their quarterback, then brought in Brennan Armstrong from Virginia. He didn't have a great year. They did have 10 players catch 10 receptions. So the ball was spread around a lot. Their leading receiver had 71. Their next leading receiver, 28. So if you weren't Kevin Concepcion last year, you weren't getting the football at NC State.
Yeah, it's just how it was. But that guy was also sick.
Yeah. Do you want to
call
pick
him
one?
the Immaculate Concepcion?
Thank you for that.
I'm picking again. Let me go Jaylen Wester.
Jaylen Wester. So let me go through this because I think we got LeJontay
first.
We did get LeJontay first.
Yep.
And that was kind of, when that happened, it felt like a matter of time before Jaylen Wester came in. He's kind of an undersized linebacker, 6 foot, 200 pounds is what he was listed at last year, but highly, highly productive. In the 2 years that he played at FAU, 22 games, 111 total tackles, 12 TFLs, 2 sacks, 1 interception, 3 passes defensed, and a forced fumble. See ball, get ball.
Exactly. And this goes back to what I was talking about earlier. Productive player at a lower level school. Dude just plays. And the word that I think is the single most important word to attach to a linebacker is instinct. And when you see numbers like that jumps out and says instinct, and then you go turn on the film, and that's the word that I would just use when I talk about Jaylen Wester. It's just, he just knows. He feels the game. And it's like quarterback's got to have that, running back's got to have that, linebacker. Everyone's got to have it, but certain positions it's a little more important than others. He is, to me, just a guy who's going to go out there and make plays for you when you put him out there. I'm actually calling him Jaylen East to Wester because he can just get all over that field.
This is a kid that's already improved on his stock coming out as a recruit in 2022. Was only a 2-star
He
prospect.
also came from the east to the west. Just saying.
Well done. Was only a 2-star prospect in 22, but was rated a 3-star transfer once he entered the portal this last year. I think you can just look at what he did at FAU and then imagine him in an offseason with Coach Mo at altitude, and maybe he adds on another 10, 15, 20 pounds or so. But if this guy can get adjusted and fits in this defense, he's going to be flying around making plays this year.
I love that you use the word fits there, because I think it's the most important part of all of this.
Mm-hmm.
You don't you don't make a lot of tackles by being in the wrong place. And it's like, Alex Singleton, I think he set the Broncos all-time single-season record this year. He's not – I love Alex Singleton, but he's not a game-changing – like Luke Kuechly type of linebacker.
Dre Greenlaw or
Fred Warner. But if you don't have that, you notice it really quick.
Yes.
And there was that Thursday night game. This actually was more of a Josie Jewell compliment, but there's that Thursday night game a couple years ago where the Broncos played the Browns. I don't know why the Broncos are on my mind so much today, but and oh gosh, what was the name of the running back? No, it was the Case Keenum game.
Oh god, yeah, I erased that from my memory, bro.
They had a running back who I had never even heard of before the game, and he ran for like damn near 200 yards on us. D'Ernest Walker?
I thought it was D'Ernest Johnson.
D'Ernest Johnson. And it's because Josie was out. You had like 2 young linebackers, and they're just in the wrong place, and so then the holes are just wide open. You gotta be in the right place. And when you see tackle numbers don't necessarily tell you that you have a great player.
Right.
It does tell you have a player who knows where to be, and that's number one.
Yes.
Who's doubting J5? Not us.
Oh, Lord. Let's stay on the defensive side of the ball. We have one last defensive player to talk about. Spider-Man.
Yeah, see, the nickname's already caught on. Jalen East to Wester will be next.
We'll see about that one. But Nikhil Webb Walker, he committed on January 12th. So I guess it's just a lot of these guys who were later in the process kind of, we're focusing on the Jordan Seaton stuff. The NFL playoffs are going on. I guess that's what happened. But he's been another kind of riser through his career. 6'6", 275, though, on the edge.
Yeah. We
have some athletic freaks on the edge on this team.
It's the rest of the chat that I guess is doubting J5. Yeah, I mean, the Webb Walker himself. You have to have these players. You have to have this size because it's what everyone is stocking up on now. And I always talk about it when talking about tackles. It's why Jordan Seaton will be a future first-round pick.
Yep.
Because all of the players who are, what is he, 6'6", 265?
275.
Jesus.
Yeah.
All of these guys are now becoming edge rushers. And there was a time when there was a nice split between where these athletes were going.
Mm-hmm.
And honestly, there was a time where most of those guys were playing basketball.
Right.
Now there's in 275 there was always room for, but now there's like a place for 6'6", 250.
Yep.
In football, and it's on the edge. The problem is you've got 6'5", 310 trying to keep up with 6'6", 250, and it just doesn't work. And it's creating an interesting dynamic in football where like a Jordan Seaton, who is probably as athletic as Nikhil Webb Walker, if not more, and probably just to do it with the size he is, maybe even more athletic, is such a valuable piece because you have to block guys like this. So you have to be a special athlete. And now a guy like this is featured on most college football teams. And that's not to say that he's not like he shouldn't be coveted. It's to say you have to have guys like this. You have to have these big and fast and strong and physical edge players that you can play to defend the pass and the run. And I think like that's what he at his best. That's what he profiles to be, is a guy that you can play on any down because he's big enough to defend the run, and fast enough to get after the passer.
This guy just started playing football too, I think. He's from Jamaica, attended a few high schools, I think, in the Northeast. Wasn't really offered too much coming out of high school in 22. was only listed at 6'6", 235 then as well. So he's already put on 30-ish pounds.
Wow,
40 pounds. So he's still kind of learning. He redshirted his first year at New Mexico State. And then last year he played in all 12 games, 24 tackles, 5.5 TFLs, 3 sacks, and a forced fumble. Still has 3 years of eligibility remaining. So very much a guy who's not only coming into his body, but is just learning the game still, I think. And
absolutely.
To have, I mean, this coaching staff, I don't know where we're at in terms of last year, in terms of how glowing we're going to talk about it, because last year it seemed crazy. We know how it all played out. But he's going to get coached up quite a bit.
Absolutely.
We haven't seen his true potential yet.
No, not at all. Yeah, I'm excited.
We have one more transfer before our bonus guy.
Okay.
Walter Taylor.
Yeah. I wanted to bring him up because I don't want to count him out.
Mm-hmm.
And so a lot of times when we talk about Juju Lewis, is that who it is?
The quarterback?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are you sure that's not the player? That's Juju Watkins.
Yes.
Okay. Juju Lewis is visiting or someone else is visiting and Bryce Underwood's making his decision. We talk about these guys being the heir to the throne. And I think that like Walter Taylor from a athleticism standpoint, from a physical standpoint, from a lot of different standpoints, could just be the next one.
Definitely.
You know? And my favorite part, honestly, about Walter Taylor right now is that he's working with Darryl Colbert.
Yep.
And I think that is a huge kind of like weapon for Colorado to have on their side. Mm-hmm. Is they have a great quarterbacks coach who is an up-and-comer in this world who is working with QB1, of course. And let's just think about that. Darryl Colbert has earned the trust of Deion Sanders,
yes,
and Shedeur Sanders to the point where they are counting on him to help Shedeur Sanders become the best version of himself that he can be.
Yep.
If that doesn't tell you something about what they see in Darryl Colbert, then you're just not looking.
You can't get a bigger endorsement from this team and staff than that.
And you really can't get it from anyone than like Deion Sanders entrusting you with the quarterback development of his future, probably number 1 overall pick son.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what you have in DC. And the fact that you then have him around these guys so much that he can work with a Walter Taylor. And what if Walter Taylor just like starts throwing the ball like Shedeur?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like there's a long way to go to get there. And not many people on this earth can throw the ball like Shedeur.
Mm-hmm.
But what if it just clicks for him? I mean, he's 6'6". He can run like the wind. 6'7". He can run like the wind. He's got a huge arm.
Mm-hmm.
All of a sudden, he starts playing with great mechanics and throwing darts. Well, you've got your guy.
Right.
So I just wanted him to be mentioned.
He's like the prototypical 6'7", 235 quarterback. Got a massive arm, and he's a bowling ball to tackle.
Yep.
We'll see how it goes. I think it's obviously we have QB1, but the QB2 competition this year has been beefed up also compared to last year, and it's going to be interesting to see who comes out. We have Destin Wade too. Mm-hmm. Of course, Staub's still in the mix. So we'll see.
You want to hit any honorable mentions that were like on the bubble for you? You mentioned the Wade brothers.
Yeah, I did mention the Wade brothers, specifically Keaton, the edge. We talk a lot about this rebuilt defensive line, rebuilt edge room, and I just don't think we mentioned his name enough. He was a former 4-star player, has played a decent amount in Kentucky so far, 25 total games the last 2 seasons. I mean, 5.5 TFLs, 2.5 sacks, 51 total tackles. I mean, it's not out of this world production, but it is something to build on.
Yeah, for sure.
Who else?
A lot of people named a bunch of transfers. We felt like a lot of the ones that I saw named in there that we have talked about a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah,
like Quincy Wiggins, we weren't going to do today. Chidozie Nwankwo, we weren't going to do today. Your guy Okunlola, we weren't going to do today.
We love like those guys have been. Those are the guys who have been talked about a lot. A lot of those guys are like the 4-star transfers.
Yep. BJ Green, those types of guys. We do have a bonus guy we want to talk about, but first, quick shout out to our wonderful friends at Illegal Pete's.
Really quick, last thing.
Yeah.
We didn't say any of the offensive linemen because I feel like as a unit, the offensive linemen have been talked about the most of all the transfers.
Definitely. Absolutely.
It's not as much individual as it is as a group, but still.
Mm-hmm. Shout out Illegal Pete's. How much are you going to miss Illegal Pete's next week?
I will miss it, but I will be getting my fair share of Mexican food.
You're going to be okay, I think.
Yeah.
If you're not fortunate
I'll miss the
enough
queso
to be heading to Mexico in the middle of winter, like most of us, hit up your local Illegal Pete's. It's just goated, man. Steak queso burrito, that's my thing. Reverse nachos for RK. I don't know. Everything. I got my brother a burrito there the other day. Just a bunch of stuff that I would have never put together. He gave me the rest of it, and I was like, they just don't miss.
Yeah, they don't.
Your go-to spot for burritos, buddies, and beers. Shout out to Illegal Pete's.
Shimon Mater didn't make our list because we feel like he's a day one starter.
Yes.
The second that he signed on the dotted line, he was a starting tight end.
Yep. And then American Finance.
Let's go. American Finance. Jake, this is a dream for me.
I've
Dream
heard.
come true.
Tell the chat. Explain this.
Because American Finance is a famous institution here in Colorado, and other people to have done advertisements for them include John Elway and Peyton Manning.
And now RK at DNVR.
And now me. American Financing, your go-to for any financing needs you may have. And you can hit them up at 303-695-7000 or 303-695-7000 or go to AmericanFinancing.net. American Financing, John Elway, Peyton Manning, Ryan Koenigsberg.
Can't wait to hear more from you in American
Customers
Financing.
save an average of $854 a month.
Of course.
When they use American Financing.
It should also be noted they're local in Colorado, but they're licensed in all 50 states, so hit them up.
Bang.
Last guy we want to talk about, and I think if I had to put together a power rankings of players who have become fan favorites, like new players who become fan favorites this offseason, Micah Welch is right at the top.
Ooh, very good one. We threw in one freshman, even though it was against our rules, only because that dude does not look like a freshman.
No, not at all. He is so stone cold, man. He's just about grinding.
Yep.
That's all.
About that action, boss.
He is.
I don't know. I've been so impressed with him, and like I feel like he is one of those people that's like, and there's nothing wrong with it if you're not like this, but I just feel like it's like, hey, like Friday night, you want to go out? He's like, nah, I'm just gonna get some extra work in.
Yeah,
you know,
nah, I gotta hit some extra chest reps.
Yeah, it's like I'm gonna go run the cones. Like,
yeah.
Everyone's like, are you serious? But he's like, yeah. Like, sorry guys, maybe next time. And there's never a next time,
right?
Like he really feels like he feels like he's on a mission.
Yes, definitely. You could say that probably going back to last offseason. He's one of the guys, he committed in the middle of the summer, and we just didn't hear anything from him at all, and he just shows up after signing day.
And we're like, oh my God, that guy's huge.
Yeah. He was the Georgia Region 4A Offensive Player of the Year in 2022. All he did was run for tons and tons of yards. I think it was like over 3,000 yards in his career. But underrated in terms of the recruiting rankings. 746th overall player, 56th ranked running back in this year's class. We talk about Alton. We talk about Dylan. We talk about Savion. Am I forgetting anyone in the running back room? But Micah Welch feels like the true underdog who could come in and just steal people's jobs.
Micah Welch is it feels like he's the embodiment of the meme that Thad Boy does of the 5-star versus the 3-star.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, the 5-star comes in with all the hype or whatever, and the 3-star is just in there grinding.
Yep.
And the coach is like, who is that guy? And, he's just killing it. And we've seen it at CU before. There's not a 5-star running back in there right now. But we've seen these guys come in who are just cut from a different cloth. And the one that comes to my mind is Rodney Stewart, who he was up against the 5-star at the time. And it was, while everyone was disappointed the 5-star didn't work out, everyone was so hyped about Speedy that you almost forgot about it. And I'm not trying to say that's going to happen where like someone doesn't live up to the hype here, but I think there's a similarity of like this guy comes in, there's a lot of heralded players around him, and he just puts his head down And all of a sudden, they're just like, man, we cannot not give this guy carries.
Of course, Charlie. As the chat reminds me, everyone
loves Charlie.
Yep,
including us.
I mean, it's year 3 for Charlie. We'll see.
Yep. Charlie Offenball.
Yes, sir. All right. Sticking with some recruiting stuff, we have our first official visitor for the spring game.
Is it a good one?
I mean, it's a guy who plays at Buford High School, who we've talked about a lot, and has shown a great amount of interest in the University of Colorado. Mantrez Walker.
Yes, sir. Let's hear those offers.
So this offer list, 247 has 28 reported offers. Of course, Colorado. He did have a top 5. He was committed to Michigan at one point.
They're good.
LSU.
Or they were.
LSU, Miami, Ole Miss, Florida, Florida State, Louisville, Missouri, Ohio State, South Carolina, Tennessee, UCF, Georgia, Texas, Texas A&M. That's a pretty solid offer list.
It's not a 3-star offer list, I'll tell you that.
Not at all.
That's a 4-star offer list right there. This guy is a dog, and it just feels like he's a Buff.
Just sign Mantrez. Sign on the dotted line, brother. We know.
Let's go.
But yeah, I expect to see a lot more of these. I think we had a big visitor weekend for spring game last year, right? We had to have.
Yep, and it's only going to be bigger this year.
Definitely. So stay tuned on that front. Do you have any expectations yet for this spring game? Have you heard anything that you'd be willing to share yet?
I actually haven't. No. The big theory out there is that the quote-unquote fashion show that Coach Prime teased on Thursday night will be the uniform reveal.
Okay.
But I haven't been able to dig up any of those yet. Any of that information.
Is this a Lil Wayne spot, or is he more of a actual season performer?
Man, I don't know, but if Lil Wayne comes back, can we just have some better speakers?
Yes.
Please. I'm begging you. It was also just so loud. Could you hear him from the press box?
Absolutely not.
Okay. Was it because of the speakers or because it was so loud in the stadium? Combination?
A combination of speakers, everyone cheering in the stadium, and we had a window in front of us.
So, like, what I remember is seeing him come out and just, like, losing my mind. Mm-hmm. And everyone's losing their mind. And I'm like, okay, by the time everyone chills, I'll be able to hear this.
Yes.
And then they did, and I still couldn't hear.
No. Yeah. The sound system needs to be beefed up again.
But also, like, the sound system is built for, like, the guy to come over to the speakers and say, it's third down. Right. Not, like, Wheezy just, like, going crazy on the mic. So
they do have your Grateful Dead shows there, though. Like, how did
they
those
bring
sound?
in new... that's what I mean. So, like, let's just have Wheezy bring his own sound system this time.
I mean, they got to just, like, make a stage on top of the Champion Center, right? Or something.
That sounds really sick, but it would be kind of hard to see from the field.
So then where do you put a stage in this stadium? You can't put it in the touchdown club.
Why not?
I mean, you're getting rid of seats there.
Well, what if you just did it like on the porch outside of the cafeteria?
Like where Big Noon was?
Yeah.
Yeah? Could work. We'll see. All right. It's been a fun show.
It has been.
We're going to have to talk about CU basketball and whatever the hell happened last night, though. But first, shout out to Fubo TV. Fubo TV is the streaming service if you are a sports fan. Football season is over, but they've got you covered with Abs and Nuggets on Altitude. They've got you covered for the last Pac-12 season of all time as both Buffs basketball teams try to make the tournament. It's also got 140-plus live channels of sports shows, movies, and news. You can stream live from any device. No contract, no cable, no hassle. Hit them up at www.FuboTV.com/DNVR to get 15% off your first month of Fubo Pro.
Also, shout out to our friends over at FOCO. FOCO has our back for Colorado sports, and they have yours too. Get the best gear around, including many of the things that you can see in this office. That Buffs thing. All those, you actually can't see those, but there's bobbleheads on the top level of that come from FOCO.
All these two that you can't see.
If you happen to be going to Mexico this weekend, and you wanted like a Buffs straw hat and then even like a matching Buffs Hawaiian shirt, which I don't have, unfortunately, you could get that at FOCO. Anything that you love and you want your team's logo on it, water bottles, mugs, everything, you can get it over at FOCO. So go over to FOCO.com and use the code DNVR10 for 10% off your order.
Good point, Louise. We are also getting a new video board. I forgot about that, kind of.
That's true. That is true.
You'll at least be able to see it better this year.
Yep.
Where do we begin with this? Yesterday was brutal. That final possession, there's no words to describe what that was.
I know. I'm actually pretty.
Didn't even get a shot off.
I know. And why are we going for two? Why are we going for a two? Like,
yeah. Why is Tristan driving to the hole right there?
I mean, I guess that's it's probably the right thing to do to break down the defense, but then you got to kick it back out. I've kind of lost my emotional attachment to all this. Like, I'm not really mad about it. I'm just sad about it. This team is really, really talented, and they're just not getting it done. And I said it before the season. I don't remember if I said it on this show or if I just said it in group chats with my friends. I'm like, they don't have shooters. Mm-hmm. And that's all basketball is anymore, is shooting. And so I was always worried about that. And I think early in the season, you got some guys shooting above their weight class a little bit. And so it didn't, we started to have hope, and we were believing that, okay, maybe they can shoot. And they just can't. They can't shoot well enough, in my opinion, to make up for the fact that they aren't good on defense this year. And every TAD team that I can remember was always really good on defense, and whether or not they won big or not was based off of whether they could score. This year, it's like even when they're scoring, they can't hold it down on defense. When they get into these late games, they're not able to defend without fouling. It's just it's disappointing because this was a really talented team, but it really was always a flawed team. And yeah. I think that maybe that part was intentionally, just because we wanted to believe, overlooked. And now it's reared its ugly head.
Last night was just sloppy. I mean, they had like 9 first-half turnovers. They cleaned it up in the second half.
60 points, though?
I know. They finished with 14 turnovers, but it was like UCLA had like 25, 30 points off those turnovers. That was literally the difference. Yep. They just kept on handing over the ball.
CJ just said that, too.
Colorado did actually shoot 52% last night. Cody only missed 1 field goal.
I know, and he's in foul trouble.
Yeah.
It's like, jeez. So, yeah, I don't know. It's a bummer. Of course, we can talk about it a little bit. We should probably do a whole show on this, but, like, you've got the people out screaming fire Tad.
Yeah.
You can do that. Like, there is a case to be made sometimes where things just go stale. And you feel like you've plateaued, and you're going to sit back and say, we're willing to roll the dice that we can hit the next level here if we go in a different direction. But I would just challenge you to go try and find how many times a team has let go of the best coach they've ever had and improved on the next hire.
Yep.
So what I'm saying is, if you want to do it, I guess you could, but I honestly would look at the Nuggets. They fired George Karl. George Karl got them to the playoffs every year, but could never get past the first round except for 1 year. Mm-hmm. Well, their next hire was a disaster, and the team looked like a joke for a while. Then the hire after that, they really nailed it, and even that feels fortunate.
Right.
So it's like if you're going to move on from TAD, you are going into a new conference, a better basketball conference, tougher competition, without kind of your stabilizing force. And there's a chance that you make 2 wrong hires in a row, and all of a sudden you're 6 years into the Big 12 and you've gotten last like 3 times.
Right.
So I just want everyone to keep that in mind when you're trying to fire Tad. Is the chances of it getting better from here on the first try are incredibly, incredibly small.
This team's just running out of time. They've dropped 4 of their last 5. They play USC tomorrow night. They also still have to play Utah. They can avenge the loss against Cal. And then they play the Oregon schools to wrap up the regular season. But tournament chances are fading quickly.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, I guess I saw yesterday they were still considered like
last 4 out, I think.
Yeah, or one place even had the last 4 in.
Really?
But they've got to get some big wins soon, and we're getting to the point where it looks like right now it might even be like you got to make a run to the Pac-12 championship game, and you could get in.
Yeah.
One more ugly loss, and it's just you're gonna have to win it if you want to get in.
Yep. On the other hand, though, Colorado women's basketball, they put out their selection committee for the women's basketball put out, I guess, their first rankings or their initial rankings, and had CU as a 1 seed, hosting a weekend again.
First of all, love the transparency. Why not? Why do we not get an update from the NCAA men's selection committee at some point during the year?
Because then Joe Lenardi doesn't get his clicks.
Well, screw Joe Lenardi. The college football playoff committee gives their rankings every week.
Yep.
Let's do that with the men's. Seriously though, why would anyone care about what Joe Lenardi wants? The NCAA can just make more money off of this by releasing it on their own. Anyways, 1 seed. Love to see it. Obviously, the 2 losses to Oregon State have been tough to swallow. Oregon State, just a bad matchup for them. Damn near anyone else in the country they can run with. And they can still run with Oregon State, but they've beat almost everyone else they've gone up against. I hope that they're able to just finish this season. This just told you, right, that they control their own destiny.
Yeah, exactly.
So just win out, and you got yourselves a 1 seed.
Yep. South Carolina, Stanford, Colorado, Ohio State, the 1 seeds as it stands right now.
By the way, while we're on the subject of women's basketball, Caitlin Clark, bro.
Yeah. Do you think she comes back?
I don't know. I have no idea. There used to be this idea of she can make more money at Iowa. That's not true.
She's getting paid a ton in endorsements. Has to
exactly.
Be already.
Her money is coming from endorsements. You think Nike or whoever's with her isn't going to want her when she goes to the Minnesota Lynx or whatever team it may be. I have no idea who's tracking for the number 1 pick, but no. So I don't know. There's something to be said for you'll never have the opportunity to chase an NCAA tournament championship again, which is going to be fun, and you have a long, illustrious career ahead of you either way. So live it out, but we wouldn't be saying that about a men's basketball player. So I think she just goes. We have the number 1 overall recruit, and it's not even close. You can't even hold a candle to it. No, she is so incredibly fun to watch. She's Steph Curry. Yeah. The pull from the logo to break the record, insane. So swaggy, man. They've lost to Iowa in the tournament last year, right? They did. So let's get that rubber match. Caitlin Clark had 40. Yep. Buffs it was close, though. No, it was. They fought. It was every time they were within 4, Caitlin Clark hits a 3, and it's 7. Right. All right, let's hit questions. BP, where does Alton McCaskill fit in? He fits in as the projected lead back. Yes. I think everyone knows this is kind of his, I don't want to say his job to lose, but it really kind of is at this point. Absolutely. They didn't attack the transfer portal at running back. And to me, that was the number 1 way that they could show their belief in Alton McCaskill. Mm-hmm. So definitely that says that. DJ Flame with the super chat. I know I missed yesterday for a super chat, but my 5 things I want to see in the NCAA game is, here we go. 1, wideouts. 2, storming the field. 3, big commitment events. 4, stadium upgrades. And lastly, signature touchdown celebrations. Example, Travis Gritty. The Shador has to be in this game. It has to be. And in Madden right now, when you score a touchdown, you can use the right stick and it'll be dance, call the team over, blah, 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 signature. Mm-hmm. So you can go to your signature moves. So Jamar Chase, he does the gritty. Yep. Shador, if we can't do that and have him just. Yep. Oh, man, I need that. Need it bad. Yes.
Appreciate the super chat though. Good list. I do like storming the field. I think that should be in the game. Like if you are in a dynasty and you're like coaching, I don't know, FAU for example, and you go and beat Florida in the swamp, or I guess
at home. Yeah.
Well, I guess it'd have to be at home, but big game, like big games need to feel like big games in this game.
I remember you could pump up the crowd and there's that like noise meter.
Yeah.
Dude, that whole thing about signature TD celebrations, just like I just had a daydream that I'm like playing online with someone who uses Nebraska.
Yeah.
And like I'm scoring all sorts of touchdowns with Shador and just hitting him with the Shador every time.
My God, bro.
That would feed my family for decades.
King P247. Who starts at the buck position? BJ Green, Nwankwo, Carter, Sam O. So Nwankwo and Carter are probably going to be playing nose.
Yep.
Or interior.
Probably BJ.
I would say BJ and Quincy, and you'd probably say BJ and Sam.
Yeah. Why are you a Sam hater, bro?
I'm not a Sam hater.
I'm just kidding.
I'm not a Sam hater. I look at the size that Quincy Wiggins brings to the table, and it's just, how could you guard that? BJ Green's another big edge.
Yeah.
You get two big edges rolling, man. It's hard to stop.
Fair.
I don't know what's going on with Quincy's.
I don't even know what that means.
Yeah. I do not know. Could ask Uncle Neely next week, though. The irrelevant Hulk. Are the Buffs going to address the Folsom Field conditions this year? It got a little bad last year. You said that was...
That's the first time in my life.
But you think it was because of the concerts, right?
It could have been. I don't know what it was. Mm-hmm. But it's the first time in my life I've ever seen the Folsom turf not be perfect. So, yes, they have the best grounds crew in the nation. They'll make sure that thing is right and tight.
We had all our home games were in 2 months too.
It's true.
Like, I guess it was TCU, so mid-September, and then we were done like early November with home games.
Yeah.
And this year it's every other week, so I think they'll be able to get more in a rhythm.
It's true.
DD13, Shane Koch said yesterday he is finally going to play his position this season, defensive end. Thoughts on that? The fact that we got players to allow him to do that that's a great sign in and of itself.
And I love the thought of Shane Koch at 285 on first down, playing edge.
Yep. They're going to be so much bigger in the trenches this year.
I know.
No one talks about this stuff.
No.
People just gloss over this when it comes to Colorado.
Well, and you could go like, 5, technically it's a 3-4, but you can have 5 guys up on the line where you have Shane Koch out playing defensive end, and you still have Samson Okunlola outside of him, or Quincy Wiggins or whoever.
Sure.
There's a lot of options.
The chat says Quincy's been at practice every day. He's on well off.
There you go.
What's up, my guy? Big Teasy. You want this one today?
I got it. Pair character cheerfully blowing a party horn.
Do-do-do.
I love that we're motivated to make a noise. Where are you at, Alyssa?
Yeah, where's your trumpet noise? BP again. When does official spring practice start? I feel like March 18th was the date.
All I know is April 27th.
Right. Let me see this. March 18th. They begin practice that week. Then the very next week, they take a break for spring break, and they will return August 1st. So that's how it's broken up this year. When will the scoreboard be done? Did we get a confirmation before the spring game? Before the season, at least, then, right? Don't they have a concert? They have 2 concerts, I think, going on during the summer.
They do.
I think they said they'll be ready for
What are
them.
the 2?
One of them's...
I'm going to Tyler Childers.
Oh, and then Odessa, the other one.
Oh, I can see why I'm not going.
I don't listen to that, so I just know the name.
I'm sure I respect the jams, but definitely not my scene.
Me either.
That being said, like Grateful Dead concerts aren't really my scene either, but I can get in the mode,
I mean, you're at Folsom, I guess.
That's what I mean. Like,
you can convince yourself.
I threw on my tie-dye bucket hat. And
you have a tie-dye bucket hat?
I got one for that concert.
Wow.
So I was getting into character, bro.
That's dope.
It was method acting.
I like that.
Yeah, it was awesome. I had like sepia tone glasses So I want to embrace the vibe. So
man,
I guess I could probably get like some glow stick necklace or some shit and, take whatever they're passing around and I could probably have a good time at Odessa.
Odessa's pretty cool. I saw him in LA at the Forum.
Ooh.
And it's cool because they do like, what is it, EDM music, but there's like instruments. They have a full band.
I like that.
Yeah.
That's like, what's the one? Grizz or Big G or something like that? They played when I was in college.
Wrong guy over here, man.
All right. So
why is everyone trying to look at our show right now?
I don't know. Maybe they heard us talking about EDM and they're like, what?
A couple more to get through. Hand Dog says, is Damone Lewis, the DL coach, mentioned in offers? We haven't got confirmation either way what's going on at D-line coach, but I will Google this name real quick.
Yep.
That didn't help.
He's like an actor to me.
An actor, 19-year-old sentenced for something, and then some guy on LinkedIn is what I got.
Okay.
Here we go. This guy? It could be this guy. I think there's an extra I in there. Damian Lewis.
Don't you just feel like you're gonna?
What is happening?
Right now?
I don't know.
Don't touch the glass; it disturbs the fish.
This guy played starting in 2001 to 2010 for 4 teams: the St. Louis Rams, Carolina Panthers, Patriots, and Texans.
Oh, I know what they're doing. They're looking where to hang that neon sign.
Oh, okay. He's coached for the Seattle Seahawks defensive line 2020-2021 and was moved to defensive tackles coach and assistant defensive line coach in 22-23.
Okay. This is kind of how we found out about Phil Loadhole, wasn't it?
Right, yeah.
He was tagged in offers.
He also was worked as an executive in 2019 at FIU, assistant athletic director of football player development.
Wow.
So, yeah.
All right.
Keep an eye. Cheeks. What's up, Kamada? Do we have a strong safety to back up Shilo? No one hasn't mentioned weak or strong safety enough. I think we're pretty deep at safety again.
Also, we're not. Some teams are still sticking to the rules of free and strong safety, but most teams like those guys to be interchangeable.
Well, and we're getting another safeties coach as our defensive coordinator too.
Yep.
So I fully expect. And by the way, there's going to be an article comes out this weekend on Coach Livingston. With some film and stuff I'm going through right now. But they kind of just, they like to move them around. They don't like to have them be in defined roles or say we only play 2 safety looks, like they'll put a third safety on depending on situation and stuff. But I think we are big Jalen Milner-Jones fans on this show.
Oh, yeah.
Cam, of course. Who else am I forgetting at safety? Trevor, of course. Travis J played a little safety. Yeah.
I mean, they've got options.
They do.
They for sure have options. I got to say, so one last story here. I went to the barbershop today, as some of you nicely pointed out. And as soon as I walked in, one of the dudes in the barber was like, yo, bro, I saw you all over YouTube last week. Like, you were talking to Deion. You were talking to Shador. Like, that's crazy. I'm like, oh, thank you so much. And then I showed my barber that I was wearing his brand.
Yeah.
When we had interviewed
Apply
Shador.
Pressure, right?
And that got, that clip that got put out got like 1.1 million views. And he was so hyped. And sometimes it just takes like someone who's like one step removed from you to like tell you how cool something is to make you like, it was like one of those moments. I was like, damn, that's crazy that it like it permeated the barber shop. You know what I mean? And then my barber was like losing his mind. He's like asking me if he can take a picture of my phone, like showing the video because he doesn't have Twitter. So that was cool. And as always, shout out to you guys. You help
definitely
make all this happen. And it's why I'm sad that I'm going to be gone all next week.
Yeah, man. We're going to miss you. Slusher. How could I forget about Slusher?
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, when that TikTok or the short whatever that we did came out when Coach Prime was talking about the hate and stuff, and I reposted that on Instagram, I got a lot of messages about that, like, whoa, this is crazy. And that put it in perspective for me, too.
The other thing is, like I got a text from, like, a buddy from high school who just, like, randomly saw it.
Yeah.
And, like, for some reason that just, like, hits different than the normal people who you expect to, like, be excited over it. It's like, damn, we did that.
We really did that thing, man. And we just did another week of shows.
Yep.
I can't even compare this week to last week in terms of how I felt like through the week. Like last week was such a blur and just like full speed ahead, Monday to Friday.
I know. Yeah, it's crazy. I'm actually, it's weird because it feels like we're just now getting back into our rhythm, and then I'm leaving again.
Exactly.
But when I get back, we'll have a big week of shows.
Yes, we will.
Already, I think starting to line up guests for that.
Yeah, and I think Uncle still will be back when you get back too.
Let's go.
Let me double check.
My guy.
But there it is, chat. Another week of shows. Go check out the Prime Tracker on thednvr.com.
Check out the merch.
Check out the merch at dnvrlocker.com. Yeah, Uncle be here some next week too, or the week after.
Dope.
And then, yeah, keep an eye out. I'll have a Coach Livingston thing out sometime this weekend. Film, analysis, all that good stuff. Let's go Buffs.
Let's go Buffs. Miss you guys.
We all silly like the mayor.